My name is Trixie Munyama. I am a dancer. I don't really like to say dancer anymore. I like to say movement facilitator, and I use dance to tell stories. And I think dance is a way of us telling many stories within ourselves and seeing stories outside and then exploring those stories. I have been dancing for about 40 years now. I'm old. And I started my dance career as a SWAPO Pioneers cultural dancer and captain in exile many, many years ago. And I've kind of just moved along. That has taken me on a journey of training and studying in various spaces at university in London, Senegal, and Namibia. And now being here in Namibia as a dance teacher at the College of the Arts and also a choreographer for Damai Dance Ensemble. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exploring Namibian movement and dance to me means having an opportunity to see and find new ways of moving, new ways of dance and movement identities that have not been explored before. We have a very established dance scene, very established dance language, whether it is traditional or urban or classical ballet, hip hop, etc. But then contemporary for us now means creating new things, discovering how else I can move besides what is already there, that is established, and creating then a new dance identity. And 4, and sha, irap, irap, erap, 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 erap. The historical formation of contemporary dance, by the Martha Grahams of the Western dance world, was as a rebellious act from ballet and from the classically trained institutions and rebelling against those establishments. And it meant that dancers were able to then create whatever they wanted to create. And it was also an empowerment. It empowered dancers to tell other stories besides the pretty ballet dances and choreographies that existed in that time. So contemporary now for an African and for a Namibian also means that. It means also rebelling against these established forms and being new and creating those new identities within these spaces. And the space that I see is also a very didactic space that kind of tells you that you can only do it this way, you can only do it that way. And contemporary for me allows me to say, no, I don't have to do it that way. I can do it differently. I can do a new thing in a new way. There's no limitations. There's so much freedom in that. For example, I could do kika, he a 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 he. Anything you want to do. This is my interpretation of it. There's many other ways. So I would like you then to bring in your own personality, Oudano. Yes? We can begin to articulate the vocabularies through already having that what is already existing. For example, the storms and the chanting, the singing, and all of those that are there. And also the way we articulate our movements. We go into the ground and we come up, and there's so many layers to what we do as a total body, the 3D image of the body. And so we can then, we are able to articulate this by appreciating that, not moving away from who we are and the roots that we have, but also that makes us uniquely Namibian. That makes us uniquely stand outside of, of a Namibian space. If I take these vocabularies to an international stage, it is uniquely, visibly as Namibian identity, aesthetics. I think we need to explore and research Namibian sounds a bit more. I believe that, from what I've seen, we haven't yet gone to see it in a as a whole contained art form. It is very separate from us. We have not seen it as something that we can try to integrate and put into the dance. And it's holistic. I mean, Namibian music and dance, we cannot separate the two. African music and dance cannot separate the two. It's a marriage. But I think for me, even as a dance maker and creative, I haven't really gone into seeing how else and the possibilities of exploring and researching sounds as a separate element that I can include in my work. I just, we just create music together and that's that. But there's so much more nuances that we can go further into the sounds. The sounds of Namibia are very, very wide and they're very diverse. Even in going in town, the taxis and the shouting and the memes and the tates and those are Namibian contemporary urban sounds that we can also incorporate in our works that we haven't explored yet. The young people that I observe in spaces, in performing art spaces and public spaces, they're becoming very rebellious. And that's something that we haven't, we're not really, we were not free enough to rebel against the system. And so what I'm seeing now is the young people who are owning themselves, who are able to kind of walk in space as if they own it. And they're also owning their stories and not going against the dogmas that we have, that are established. And so the young people now, I see that within that shift, that their stories are going to change. And I think they're also, and their stories and in their performance creatives and their creative making, they're able to then see other ways of creating that we, perhaps, it evolves and it will evolve in that way that we are going to see a new shift with these new creatives. We're going to see a shift in the way they tell their stories, and also in the way that they own the stage is very, very different. Not everybody does exactly the same thing. You all have our own interpretations of what's happening with the rhythm, with the body, as long as it's within the context of the rhythmos, ne? It's not outside. Oudano means, Oshiwambo means to play. Oudano. It's games, it's playing. But it can also mean dance, so dance games. And it was established. I'm trying to explore it as an approach, not a method, as an approach to create something that is accessible to new dancers and new movement enthusiasts. And the way I approached it was because I saw that the students that I was receiving at the College of the Arts were coming from mostly from the north at that time, and they were very much traditional dancers, more in Oudano, in traditional Shwambo dance vocabularies. But then I also had to teach in a way that meant that they had to learn certain techniques, specific techniques like mostly modern dance techniques, positions, first positions, and so forth. But those are Western positions and Western techniques that were not accessible and not also enough for the Namibian or Shwambo dancer. So I tried then to see how can I create a dance language that is accessible, that we can allow these bodies to also have some kind of freedom. So it's a concept that I'm creating of allowing the body to be free, to play around it, to discover, but also have some kind of code that we can approach it in a way that is accessible. It's that curve still, ne? And it comes back. My body follows and back, 3 and back, and 4 all the way, and then it twists. I go into a contraction. My hand twists again and up. Yes, and then sha. The reason why my art now includes various aspects of performance, not just dance, was because it just evolved naturally. Because I felt eventually my body, eventually my artwork was not just about dance and with an audience and dancers on stage and moving. I felt that there's so much more to our art, and that is inspired by the African theater stage, which involves storytelling, it involves pantomime, it involves even theater as well. So including those other aspects and other elements of as a holistic theater image made the stories be told better for in my perception. And it's also going with what's happening in the world right now. We are moving away from just dancing and moving for the sake of moving, but we're telling stories in different ways, and we're exploring how can we tell our stories in different ways besides the traditional, Western black box way. So moving away from that, I mean, there's many ways that we can still continue exploring that aspect of our work. And that is informed by what's happening. It's informed by the story that I'm also telling, and the things that come in that story.
Ha ah, ha ah, ha ah, ha ah, ha ah, ha ah. Remember my knees are bent. I'm rooted into the ground. Ha ah.
The Morning Citizen that was done at the Alta Fest 2 years ago now. And that included many mediums of telling, and it was very nice because I felt that we were really allowing the dancers also, or the performing artists, to really be able to be open to tell their own story in their own way. I didn't give them movement and they dance for me or for the dance for themselves, but they're the ones who gave their stories. So it included media, it included video installations, it included also some wall projections and chanting as well, and talking. So that was I think the beginning of my work, and moving away from presenting it in a very traditional mode. As a choreographer, it's a lot of work because you have to create the movements and the story within your body, and then transfer that into other bodies. And at some point, I realized that, but they're also human beings, and they also have stories to tell. Who am I to allow to only impart and impose what I want to say? And so that the evolution of me becoming just to facilitate them bringing their side and them bringing their voice in the work meant that we are then able to see dancers as human beings with voices and with stories to tell as well, not just moving empty bodies.
Hey, yeah. Hey.
I think it's time that we do move into telling our stories and also social issues within our work. I believe that Namibia, we were at a time where we were entertaining. We were only providing that because we went through a lot as a nation as well, through colonization and apartheid and now political issues that we have currently. And all these issues, we had to just release and laugh and enjoy ourselves. But now at this stage, I'm seeing that a lot of our works are also now able, we are reflecting what's really happening in society, that, what is happening to us, and also how we are able then to tell the real issues in our work. I think it's an important duty that an artist has. We have to tell these stories. If the fact that in society there are many issues that are happening, gender-based violence, injustices and equality that are happening, but we're not able to then include that in our artwork. So, and I'm seeing that a lot now in visual arts. These are coming out in music. It's also starting, and in performance art now, we're able to really critically engage audiences with real issues and not just entertaining. I would love to see Namibian performing artists to go further and to really explore and know that there are no limitations, and know that there is nothing that is set only. We have to really be able to discover and dig deeper into our bodies, into our stories, and not just stick to one thing, one art. You're not just a dancer, you're a performing artist. You're an artist in many ways than what we've been led to believe and we are told to too. So exploring, and young people to also explore those aspects of themselves and discover who they are as themselves and what they can tell through their artwork.